the defense continues to play at an absolutely elite level across the board. The back end, the front, they got Tonga back, and this was the first time since mid-November that they had Tonga, Williams, and Barmore all together, and I think that showed up in the numbers. Look, the Houston run game wasn't that great coming in, but I think making C.J. Stroud play with one hand tied behind his back went a long way toward New England winning this football game.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a good offensive performance for either team, but I think that everyone kind of expected this to be more of a defensive battle. Texans had top-ranked defense in the league, and we had a defense that was getting back to 100% healthy and all of our guys back playing well. So yeah, I kind of went the way that I expected it to go. I did not expect to see the ball on the ground so many damn times, or so much, all the turnovers was not a way that you want to continue to play offensively. Defensively, pour it on, right? I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better performance from our defense. I mean, the level of confidence that these guys have right now playing together, going into an AFC championship game, and then who knows beyond that. I mean, that's the type of caliber of play that's going to help you win a championship. Really, really kind of brings me back to the years that 2016, 17, the defenses that we had with the guys. I mean, they just played so well together, and you kind of saw that on Sunday, right? It was just everyone was on the same page, and they were able to create turnovers, field position, score. They were put points on the board on defense. That's huge. That changes the course of a game, really. I mean, your percentages go up a lot when you're able to put defensive points on the board. And I think it's a boost for your offense. It is. We didn't play great, but the other side of the ball stepped up. And that's kind of there's that ebb and flow of what you need to be able to do to win football games in this league. And we were able to do it, right? Texans, they were close, but they were able to get the ball on the ground, create some turnovers, but they weren't able to really turn those into points. And that really was the case of the game. And then, there were a couple of big plays that we were able to capitalize on offense to kind of seal the deal there. But yeah, definitely wasn't the best performance. I mean, I know there's the weather and all of that, but I think, I texted you, it's just the ball security has got to just, the sense of urgency of taking care of the football has got to go up. We can't be comfortable with turning the ball. I mean, how many turnovers did we have?
I think there was at least 4. I'll say this, and let me lead into this. I think this leads into my next question here. Specific to the quarterback and turnovers, he's fumbled 6 times in the playoffs, has a league high 14 on the year.
Yeah.
What's your level of concern when it comes to ball security, specifically addressing the quarterback position?
I think it needs to be talked about. I mean, I think that's I don't want to. Drake is not. He's not careless, right? I don't. He's not like. Let's use this reference. He's not LaShawn McCoy running. It always baffled me because I played with him on a couple of teams. It always baffled me how he didn't fumble the ball because he ran with the thing, carrying one hand. That was almost careless, but that was part of how he played. But it's not careless with what Drake is doing, but I think that listen, you got to be, there's some awareness, right? That I just think needs to go up, with his ability to drop back, step up in the pocket, go on the run outside outside the box, whatever it is, because teams are watching it, right? And I don't think they're not like, it's not a case of, all right, let's just try to get this guy to the ground. It's more of, okay, we're going to try to get to the quarterback and we're just going for the ball at this point because he has one hand on the ball. So I think for him, it's not concerning. I just think that he needs to take a little bit more ownership of taking care of the football. If you're stepping up in the pocket, 2 hands on the ball, if you're going to exit, let's tuck that thing down because everyone's after it, right? And we can't continue to turn the ball over and expect our defense to kind of back us up. We have a great defense, but at some point, that dam is going to break. And it's not something that I want to just rely on, like, oh, it's okay. We can, we'll put the ball on the ground. Everyone else is doing a really good job of it. I haven't talked about it with Ramondre. I talked about it tirelessly with Steph. I mean, every single time he catches the ball in traffic, it's literally he's hugging that thing, two hands on the ball, and that goes for most of the skill guys when they get the football in their hands. With Drake, I think he's got to take a little bit more accountability for it, and make sure that this thing doesn't end up on the ground anymore going into these last this last game of the season, right? Because you're only guaranteed one more. So we go out to Denver. Who knows what the weather's going to be like? It's probably going to be cold, and it's going to be similar temperatures to what we played in. Like, let's take care of the football. I don't care if you got to wear a glove, man. If it's a control thing or whatever it is, like, figure it out, because that's not how we want to continue to try to win football games.
Denver has a league-high 71 sacks, and we can get into this a little bit about the offensive line. We talked a little bit about it before the game against the Texans and, coming out of the Chargers game. Is there a level of, I don't want to call it concern. I know that you said before you're not concerned, but what's your level of, how are you approaching the offensive line if you're Josh McDaniels this week, particularly the left side? Will Campbell had some more struggles against the Texans. Jared Wilson struggled on the left side. Look, I thought it was really interesting at the end of the game that they ran an awful lot to the right side. I don't think that was a coincidence when they were doing that. Now, there are ways that you can minimize it, and we've discussed ways that you can minimize, some weaknesses along the offensive line, play fakes, making a concerted effort to run behind other guys as opposed to, putting an extra tight end out there. We've seen Thayer Mumford an awful lot over the course of the last month plus. But going into this game, how do you feel about the state of the New England offensive line, particularly the left side?
I think that there's just going to that's going to be Josh. And I think that he's going to have to take a good long look at how he wants the game plan for this game coming up, knowing that, the left side has struggled a little bit. And particularly, listen, I think Will is a phenomenal player, and that he's played above and beyond the expectations of what a first-round draft pick and what we all expected him to do. I think that his injury and then coming back has slowed him down a bit, or it's taken him a minute to get back up to speed, because it seems like it's that edge is just soft, right? And a lot of those fumbles that were created were coming off that edge, and it was just that soft edge that guys were able to get a hand up or get a hand on the ball. So that Josh, if this is the case, right, and we're not going to sit here and try to expect him to all of a sudden, really be that wall on the left side. I think that you manage it with personnel. I think you manage it with play calling. I think you manage it with making sure that if a back is going out, he's getting out on the left side and he's chipping the DN coming off the side, or an extra tough fullback that is, exiting, before he gets out into his route, he's exiting with the chip just to provide a little bit, extra protection for Will and then for Drake as well. So I think that will be managed with Josh, personnel, play calling. And I'm not concerned about it, because I think we have the best in the league at doing that in Josh McDaniels. So I do think that he's going to have some expectations of his guys on the offensive line to kind of get it together. And they're just going to, I think, let's watch the film. Let's make sure that we know what are the stunts, what are the games, where do they like to blitz? I mean, if you're watching the film, you got to imagine that they're coming after the left side. If that's the case, let's try to game plan around that and kind of see what happens. So I think there's a lot that's going to go into this week, game plan wise, specifically with the offensive line, and they'll probably get creative. And, it's an interesting game of how to kind of attack this, right? Because you got a kid who hasn't started a football game in 2 years. They have a great coach, though, right? I mean, Sean Payton is all time, man. I mean, did he blink when Bo went down? Yeah, he probably did for a second, but this guy is just as, he's one of those guys too that you talk about game plan wise and formations. And if you want to, Josh McDaniels or Sean Payton. I mean, those are the guys that you kind of probably want to go into battle with this thing because he'll have a plan for it. But I think offensively for us, it's like, what does that change anything? Do we run the ball more to time of possession? So I get who it's going to be an interesting game. It really is. I couldn't tell you. I haven't seen Jared Stidham play in since 2020. When he was playing in the preseason for the Pats. Like, I can't really tell you what to expect. I don't even know the Pats really know what to expect at this point. I think they're just going to have to kind of play their ball, play their game and kind of see how the chips fall. I think the one thing that is known is Denver's got a tremendous defense. So that's a true test for our offense to go against some guys, in their secondary. I mean, you name it, they got guys that are going to, Pro Bowl type caliber type players that can effectively change a game. So our, receivers got to be able to get open. We have to take care of the football. I would say that we have to try to put some more points on the board, let our defense do its thing. I do think this is going to be like a multiple front, movement, just really try to confuse Jared, just he hasn't been out there, right? He hasn't taken reps in practice versus taking reps in an AFC championship game. It's going to be a hell of a lot different, man. So, and it's a tough spot for the kid to be in. I mean, what an opportunity though. I mean, for him. And it's gut wrenching for Bo Nix. So, I mean, it really is on the last play of the game to break your foot. I feel for him. And I wanted to, if it wasn't going to be Josh Allen, I wanted to see Bo Nix and Drake battle it out, but tough. So we'll see.
We're going to get into a little bit more of that game, but I do have one more question about the Texans game. And we've hit on a few of the drawbacks that the Patriots, a few of the weaknesses or the perceived weaknesses that the Patriots have coming out of that game. I really like the state of this defense. I like where the special teams is at. I want to ask you about one specific throw. We kind of went over this, earlier in the season where we would pick out one throw each game. The throw and catch to Booty down the sidelines for the touchdown, the one-handed grab was maybe the most impressive combination of plays that we've seen over the course of a very impressive year for Drake Maye. Walk me through that from a wide receiver's perspective. I was thinking something that Booty was talking about on Monday when we asked him about it again, is he said he didn't even really recognize at the time that it was a one-handed catch. Have you ever had that kind of situation? And tell us a little bit more, again, from a wide receiver's perspective, what you're looking at when we see that play and how well it was executed.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, it came at a point where a play was really needed to be made for an offense that just was not, I don't want to say we were struggling, but we were struggling, right? I mean, we couldn't put points on the board. Drake wasn't what he has been for the most of the season. One thing that he can do is throw a good deep ball, right? And, Kayshawn had a good game. I thought that he played really well. And they were, matched up on the outside in the snow or the rain or whatever the heck it was doing up in Boston in the end zone. I mean, he was able to track that ball, bring it down one-handed. I mean, that is an incredibly tough catch. I think the degree of difficulty to be on the outside, track a ball that was over his shoulder with one hand while fighting off someone else, and then also survive going to the ground, which we saw a few times over the course of this weekend, which guys were not able to do, and led to some turnovers and some controversy on what is a catch. Who knows what a catch is at this point, but it really was, man. That was an incredible play. I think that's probably one of the best plays that we've had all year. One of the best catches. And not only that, it was at a crucial point in the game. And that really kind of put the nail in the coffin there for this game. And I think it was a big play for the offense. I think it was a big play for the defense, big play for this team. And to a kid that has really worked hard this year and come up clutch in a lot of situations. I think that was a huge play for him. And it was an incredible catch. It really was. It was really good, man. I mean, there's really not much to talk about other than the kid made a great play. He was a receiver that he, got off the line. It was just a go ball. It wasn't anything. It wasn't a double move or anything special like that. There was a lot of hand fighting going on, which also makes it difficult. And, it's tough. You're trying to hand fight all the way down the field, and he was able to kind of stick that out. Make focus enough to really make the play, bring it in, survive the ground. I mean, it was an incredible catch. It really was.
Well, let's spin it forward here a little bit. Patriots go into the AFC Championship game once again against the Denver Broncos. They're 5.5-point favorites. The line, according to our friends at FanDuel, opened up at 4.5. And I wonder if the movement was because of the definitive, nature of the move to Jared Stidham, which I have to believe played a bit of a role. The number opened up at 40.5. It's since gone up to 41.5. I think the recipe for success in this one is very simple. Keep doing what you're doing. As Diggs has said a number of times this year, don't change the macaroni. I think offensively, they're going to need to get a little bit more to beat this Denver defense. But I can see a scenario in this game where they have the same sort of defensive approach. And if they're able to get up 1-2 scores going into the second half, they can blitz a little bit more, as we've seen over the course of the postseason. They've been sending extra pressure. The wild card for me in this one is J.K. Dobbins, the running back who played not very well, but played well over the first 10 weeks, gave them some semblance of a running game. He averaged 77 yards per game, 5 yards a carry. They opened up the practice window for him this week. If he can be effective in this one, it gives Stidham kind of a fighting chance, I think, because it does give them another option, can keep the Patriots defense on its heels a little bit. But if he's not effective, I don't know where Denver is going to get its offense from in this game against New England.
I don't know. I mean, I thought that the Denver receivers played pretty well against the Buffalo secondary. Mims stepped up. I mean, he really hasn't been too much of a factor this year, but I thought that he played well. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think Sean is going to he's going to get creative, man. I got to imagine there's going to be a lot of creativity in this game. Try to confuse our defense, get them moving around, pre-step movement, give Jared as much information as possible. And it's going to be, I think our defense is still going to be, they have to approach this like Bo Nix is playing and just go out there and just play their game. I don't think you have to change anything that we're doing just because it's Jared. I think that do what you were going to do, right? And our offense just needs to play a little bit better and let them go against a really good defense that is playing well, right? So, did you see Nick Foles' post, by the way?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, did you guys ever face a similar type of situation where there was some uncertainty at the quarterback position? I know we can talk about Super Bowl 52. I know you're not crazy about talking about Super Bowl 52, but at the same time, do you remember another situation where you guys went into it over the course of the week where all of a sudden the personnel that you may be prepared for changed dramatically?
No, I can't. Not that dramatic, right? I mean, there's guys that are up or down or questionable, but that it doesn't ever. You kind of prepare for that, and it doesn't necessarily change a game plan. But a quarterback, that's a different type situation. I mean, let's take for example in 2017 when we were in Jacksonville or playing Jacksonville. I know you wanted to talk about this a little bit, and all of a sudden Tom Brady pops up on the injury report for a hand on a Friday, right? And Jacksonville all of a sudden is like probably scrambling to figure out what the hell is going on, and wondering who the backup quarterback is. It was Brian Hoyer, but they probably didn't even know that or weren't concerned about it. But all of a sudden now you're that. I don't know if that would have changed their perspective on playing that game. They had a great defense, but I definitely, it's something that is definitely going to be talked about for sure. So, I mean, again, you're pulling up film from 2 years ago on this kid, right? Who knows? I mean, hasn't been coached by Sean Payton. Sean's a great coach, so obviously he's been learning. So he's going to be, listen, this kid's going to be ready to play this game. It's just if he's able to rise to the occasion and kind of play in this, have a tiny outer body experience to just go out there and just, I guess honestly for him, and I don't want to give him any advice, but I don't think that you have to go out there and be a hero, right? Just try to move the ball and be positive and don't turn the ball over. Because if you do that and let your defense just pick up the slack, and let change the outcome of this game. I think that if he comes out and he's got some AFC East championship, or some AFC championship jitters, and he's going out there and trying to throw across his body, or make some crazy throws or do anything, then I think our defense will take advantage of that and create a lot of bad plays and create some turnovers, and then this game will be won very easily. But if he comes out there and just kind of plays this game and does what Sean tells him to do, I mean, Sean's going to be in that headset up until the last possible second, and he's going to try to give this kid as much information as possible, and so I think New England knows that. I think Mike knows that. The defense should know that regardless of who's throwing the ball, there's a guy that's going to be on the headset that knows what he's doing, has been around the block a time or two, and it will get this kid ready to play in this type of game, right? And if I'm New England, I'm not taking this kid lightly. I'm not taking this team lightly. You're playing in a championship game, and this is what an opportunity for this team and this organization. And I think that you have to come out, and this has got to be the best game that you played all year.
Sean Payton has done more with less. That's the thing that I keep reminding myself of when you start to think about the Patriots potentially rattling Jarrett Stidham. I'm not saying Stidham is going to come out and go 30 for 35 for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, but Payton, as you said, has been has been around the block. And this is a guy who has worked with lesser quarterbacks over the course of the year and gotten more out of them. So you alluded to this, and we talked a little bit about this before we started taping. The 2018 or the end of the 2017 season, I'm sorry, so January of 2018, the AFC Championship game. Tom comes out in relatively late in the week, and there's a hand injury, there's a thumb injury, and I don't think it's the same sort of mystery around Malcolm Butler and why Malcolm Butler didn't play in Super Bowl 52, but I think it's one of those great untold stories about the Patriots dynasty that we don't hear enough about. What do you remember about that week? It's our understanding, my understanding, that there was a botched handoff to Rex Burkhead, and all of a sudden, Tom's hand is all bloody. And, there's a problem. But what did you see about that? That injury and how that whole week played out.
Well, I mean, it was later in the week, so but we were in the stadium practicing. And it was in the beginning of practice. I mean, the quarterbacks are doing a routine thing that they always do. They're practicing, they're doing their handoffs. It's a run period. We're probably on one of the sides of the field doing, warming up as receivers do, going through our drills. And I mean, all of a sudden there's like all this commotion going around on the field. You don't really know what's happening. And then Tom exits. And then even after practice, I remember not really knowing what happened. But all of a sudden, now you got Brian Hoyer stepping in and taking all the first team reps. And to be honest with you, Chris, Hoyer is all time. I mean, he has done it. I think that was the beautiful thing about that situation and that team, right, that we had for those years that we went to back-to-back Super Bowls was nobody blinked, right? Especially not Bill, definitely not Josh. It was kind of, we always had that next man up mentality. Brian did not blink. He's been there. He's done it. I think that there was a little bit of extra anxiety, maybe just because the degree of what happened to Tom, and we haven't played with Brian, and Julian, but like even having Jules and all these guys, like it's like it doesn't matter, right? It's like, hey, like you go out there, it's the cliche, do your job and we'll figure it out. But yeah, that was an interesting couple of days for sure. I mean, I do remember, Tom was in the locker next to me, and he's coming in. There still was unknown going into that game whether he was playing or not. But I remember, he had, God, the guy probably had like a pound of that glue on his hand, and it was wrapped in a certain way. And I mean, Brady, I mean, if they had to take his thumb off, like he still would have found a way to play in that football game. But, for me, it was, again, having the leaders on your teams are the ones that control that type of situation. And when you have a guy like your quarterback go down, or a guy that is a huge part of the game plan, the leaders on the team, the coaches, Josh, Bill, Julian, the guys that have been there and done it, those are the guys that control that type of situation, and nobody faltered, right? We went through that practice with Brian. We probably got extra reps with Brian. We stayed out a little bit later and did some routes on air with Brian just to make sure that we had timing. And then, we just kind of went through that practice like, okay, Hoyer's the quarterback, right? And then we'll figure it out after that. And obviously, that's not what ended up happening. And Tom was fine, but I remember Rex Burkhead's eyes just being like, oh my, like for the entire practice. I mean, it could not have happened to a nicer guy. Like, it was either him, or it could have been like, if it was James White. I mean, those are like two of the nicest human beings, right? That I played with on that team. I'm so happy that Tom played in that game and that season ended up the way that it ended up, because Rex is, he is all-time teammate, such a good football player. It was a complete accident, right? It's not like Rex was out here, trying to ruin Tom's season and take his thumb off and hand off. It just, shit happens. And it was unfortunate timing, but, another way that team that we had was just kind of able to overcome a little bit more adversity, and go out there and get a win in a championship game.
I know Edelman for a fact had to be going like, all right, coach.
Yeah, no, we did. We had, I do remember we had extra personnels in there to kind of throw some wrinkles in, and Jules there was one with me and him in the backfield. And there was a couple of different things that we did with Julian. I mean, I do remember him throwing, he had like one rollout pass that he to throw, and he like threw it in the dirt, and clearly he was obviously yelling at me because I did something wrong probably. But no, we had there was a whole package that went in for Julian to step in as a quarterback as well. So, but like, again, that's Josh, right? That's Bill. Let's throw a little wrinkle in here. If we don't have Tom, like, let's get them thinking about something that maybe we can take advantage of and come up with a big play. Fortunately, we did not have to use that package, and Tom was able to play in that game.
That's a great game too.
Yeah, it was.
Great ball game. It was a great ball game. And people forget about it in the wake of Super Bowl 52, but that was a great AFC Championship game that was saved at the very end by a phenomenal play by Steph Gilmore, reaching up and knocking the ball away. I don't know if I've ever heard Gillette Stadium as loud as it was after that play that Gilmore
Great
made.
Play. Yeah.
Want to get into some of the other conference championship stuff. Want to look back. You were 3-1 last week, by the way.
I know.
The 4 games. I picked the Bears. And if it wasn't for, I almost thought I had it with the Caleb Williams pass, that ridiculous pass there that ended up sending the game to overtime. You picked the Rams, you picked the Seahawks, and the Broncos, and the Patriots.
Yeah.
So you picked wait a minute. So you went.
That was 4-0. I'm pretty sure that I picked the Broncos.
Sorry, you went 4-0.
I wanted the Bills to win, but I picked the Broncos.
Yeah. Speaking of the Bills, and we're going to get into this in a second with the whole Bills situation. I know you have some thoughts on that, but I went 2-2. I, against my better judgment, I think part of it was because I just didn't want to get on a plane to go to Denver. I picked the Bills, and I picked the Bears. So I ended up going 2-2. The Bills made a huge move yesterday, Monday, firing Sean McDermott. I was a little bit surprised, but as we start to hear more and more come out, it was clearly a power struggle between him and the GM, and the GM ended up winning. I don't know who they go after at this point. Usually when you make a move like that dramatically, you have someone in mind. I don't know who it's going to be, but I know you have some very strong feelings about the Bills and how they operated, how they made the decision, why they made the decision that they made.
I don't know. I'll tell you this: it opens up the door for Daboll to go back there and be the head coach, and because Josh had some of his best years with Daboll, so that kind of opens up a door for him to go in there and take that interview. I don't understand organizations that get rid of a winning coach. I don't. Tomlin is different, right? Like, he stepped down. I think that there was probably some talks behind closed doors where it's like, how do we move on, or how do we get and whatever happened there happened. But McDermott has completely changed the entire environment of Buffalo. And I don't really understand why, right? Like, bringing in a new head coach and a new staff, and that's going to just there's so much unknown of how this is going to work. And all of a sudden, you go into next year and now Buffalo is, if they're struggling, or whatever happens, and now you're going to be kind of looking back and be like, did we make the right move with getting rid of this guy? I think that I don't agree with it. I don't think anyone in Buffalo saw this coming. I get that you can be frustrated about not winning a Super Bowl, but you've been to how many conference championships over the last couple of years? How many playoff games have you been to? I mean, I would have at least given the guy one chance to play in the new stadium, and maybe it was the Ralph Wilson curse, right? That was looming over, the cloud that was looming over this team's head. But I mean, listen, he's on the market now, and an incredible coach, and a guy that's clearly able to change a culture of an organization and bring in good people and coach very, very well. So whoever gets him is going to be very, very fortunate and very lucky to have him. But I don't totally understand the move of how you get rid of a guy like that that's been able to do, effectively have so much change over a football team since he got to the team. So, and you could see the overwhelming amount of support that he got from past players and even players on his team. I think a lot of guys don't really probably know how to feel about this. And that is also an issue, right? If you got a team that doesn't really agree with what just happened, and now all of a sudden you're bringing in a new guy that is going to either try to change the culture, or like for a team that has a good football team, this could go a lot of different ways, which is why I think bringing in a guy that's been there before probably makes the most sense with Daboll, and he knows that team, that organization, and he's not going to come in and try to change really what they have, right? He's just going to probably be more of a huge help to Josh, and maybe trying to get them over the hump of, I guess, winning a Super Bowl, but because that seems like what they're most upset about. But I don't get paid to make those decisions, so I can just sit here and have people just get angry about, my takes on why Buffalo got rid of it. So it's crazy. It really is.
It is.
Because if they don't win, then you're going down this road that a lot of organizations are in. So
yeah,
who knows?
Yeah. In the best possible situation for Buffalo, it is a Tony Dungy, John Gruden deal, where you have to find the guy who's able to come in and get you over the top. But I don't know who that is. Maybe it's Daboll, maybe it's someone else. It's going to be interesting to see how they proceed moving forward. Once again, the Patriots going into this weekend, they're 5.5-point favorites against the Broncos. The number is 41.5. I'm going to take the Patriots in this one, just barely. I think they're going to cover. I will take the over, just barely, as well, to for this AFC Championship game. The NFC Championship game, the Seahawks are favored by 2.5 and the over-under is 47.5. It's a
Wow.
lot of points for two pretty good defenses. So I'm going to take the Seahawks, and I will take the under in this one. Any thoughts about Seattle, LA?
I think it's going to be a good game. I mean, you got two. Listen, I'm going to take Matthew Stafford in this one. I think that Seattle's run here, it might fall short of going to the Super Bowl. I think that what he was able to do in Chicago under those conditions and get, go in there and get a W in a pretty hostile environment. I think that was a really good win for them. And I'm going to go with Sean McVay too. I think that this team is just going to be, I think that they're just going to be better coached. They're going to be better coached. I think they're going to be a little bit more prepared. And I think that the guys that you want to step up and be big time playmakers in that game are going to step up. So Puka, Stafford, I think they're going to be able to change that game and come out with a W. Obviously, I'm going to take the Patriots in the AFC. I still think it's going to be a good game, though. I really do.
I don't think it's going to be a blowout. It's not going to be a blowout.
I just, Sean Payton, if you got a guy like, he's a guy that you want to take on this type of situation and this challenge of a quarterback that hasn't played. I think that that kid's going to be ready to go. I think it'll come down to his performance and how he's going to be able to, if they're able to get off some big plays down the field and he can throw the ball somewhat effectively and not turn the ball over. I think it's going to be a close game. I do. So again, I think we're looking at a little rematch here. Pats Rams Super Bowl.
Well, I'm calling for a Super Bowl 49 rematch, and you're calling for a Super Bowl 53 rematch.
Yeah.
And if history holds, New England, likes their chances, I imagine, either way. So, and look, as remarkable as this season has been, I think them winning another two games would be just the cherry on top of the Sunday. Yeah. And like I said, this is the most unexpected season that I can remember covering the Patriots. And going all the way back to 2001, I think that was as equally as remarkable, I think, if you're stacking one against the other. But what they've been able to do this year is amazing. And again, like you said at the top, we can argue strength of schedule. We can argue, luck. And my personal opinion is you have to be good to get to this point, but you also need a little bit of luck. You know that as well as I do. And they've had some luck this year, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But for them to be able to be at this point is really a remarkable turnaround from what we saw over the last couple of years. So we will talk all about it, what happens in the AFC Championship game next week, Sunday at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Patriots, Broncos, AFC Championship. You're going to be watching? Where are you going to be watching?
I'm going to be watching right here on the couch, unless I get the nerve to travel all the way out to Denver. But the couch seems a little bit nicer right at this moment.
a little bit. It would have been.
I gotta look at the weather report in Denver.
If it turned a little bit differently, if Brandon Cooks came down with that ball,
oh my God,
you'd be coming up to New England. You'd be the one ringing the bell. We saw Ty Law last weekend. You'd be the one ringing the bell. It would be madness, mayhem at Gillette Stadium. So as it stands right now, it's going to be in Denver. So what are you going to be able to do?
Yeah, it's cool. I'm comfortable watching from the couch. We're pacing around my living room watching the game.
Christopher Hogan. Why did I call you Christopher Hogan? Chris Hogan, thank you very much for your time, my friend. Take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Nice, Chris.